Good afternoon, everyone. So are you a new collector or you just don't understand what the hell half of us fragrance reviewers are saying? Well, in this video I'm going to be covering all the fragrance verbiage you need to know. It's a fragrance for beginners, so stay tuned.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah.
Welcome back to my channel. This is Randy back with another video. And while I was waiting for my new release fragrances to get here today, I was talking to a family member and a friend about different aspects and verbiage of fragrances, and I thought it warranted a video for you guys, kind of like a fragrance for beginners. If you're new into collecting, if you watch fragrance videos and you enjoy them but you don't know some of the stuff we're saying, that is what this video is, to pretty much educate you on those terms. To start out, I wanted to go over the thing that's asked to me the most on and off camera, and that's about concentrations. When I first started collecting, I only thought that it was eau de parfum and eau de toilette out there, but I was wrong. The first one is eau fraîche. That is more of your watered down fragrances like body sprays and body splashes, 1 to 3% concentration as far as the eau fraîche goes. The second is eau de Cologne. It is a 2 to 5% concentration. For the eau fraîche in the eau de Cologne, I'm not talking if you're talking about like Versace Man Eau Fraîche, or if you're talking about Paco Rabanne's 1 million cologne. I'm not talking about those. Those are just the names, and you would be able to see on the bottom of those bottles. Those are not the actual concentrations of those. You will hardly ever see an eau de Cologne. If you do, it's an old bottle on the back of a shelf at a Burlington. And an eau fraîche, again, is body spray. The third one is when a designer releases a new fragrance from a new line. Most of the time, it's an eau de toilette. It's 5 to 15% concentration, usually hovering around the 10%. Then you have the eau de parfum, which is a stronger concentration, usually of the eau de toilette, or sometimes they like to maneuver and make it smell a little bit different and go its own route, and that is an eau de parfum at 10 to 20% concentration, again usually hovering around 15%. Then you have a large group of different names, that is parfum, extrait de parfum, and elixir. Extrait de parfum you usually find in niche fragrances. Parfum you usually find in designers. They usually are hovering between 15 and 40%, or what I usually say is 20% and above. And then elixir, if you are looking at a designer brand that is released, the line usually goes eau de toilette, eau de parfum, parfum, elixir. Elixir is usually the highest. They say it's up to 40%. Again, I usually group it with the other two above 20%. But again, elixir is usually the highest concentration in a designer brand, at least. Whenever it comes to certain colognes, let me see if I have them here. You have some that are like eau de toilette intense, or intensely, or eau de parfum intense. That's usually the brand telling you, look, we are straddling the higher end of that percentage range. So eau de toilette intense would be straddling the 15% line, giving you better longevity, better sillage, better projection, and those terms I'll go through in a second as well. Then next thing I wanted to go over are flankers and new additions. So there are two schools of thoughts here. So what a flanker is to me is if you have a new fragrance, which is the original in the line, this is the 1 million from Paco Rabanne. A flanker would be 1 million Lucky. It's a new addition to the line. It can smell the same, but just a higher concentration, or it can smell different, but it's just a new addition to that line. Some other people would call 1 million Lucky a flanker, yes, because it smells different from the original. But in cases like YSL Y eau de toilette and YSL Y eau de parfum, they smell the same almost, but just with a higher concentration and better longevity. Some people would just call this a new addition to the line, and then something like 1 million Lucky a flanker, because this doesn't smell different from the original. It's just a parfum version. So a lot of people look at it like that. A lot of people look at it like me. I think it's a lot easier just to call any new addition to the line, whether it smells different and goes its own route, or smells the same, just higher concentration, I think it's easier just to call them all flankers. So that's when you go into the next category, clones and inspired by. So the clones are, if you take something like Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille, most of the country can't really afford that $400 fragrance. So they look to companies like Al Haramain for a clone, which Al Haramain and Armaf are companies that usually use these machines that can sniff out really good scents from the other fragrances like the Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille to create a very nice clone like Al Haramain's Amber Ale Tobacco Edition, which smells and lasts just as long as the Tobacco Vanille. And then you have things like this, that if you have like a Xerjoff or a Pure Havane that were discontinued, then you get this Insurrection 2 Wild, which is a clone of a discontinued Pure Havane, which is a really nice fragrance. I actually really like clones. I know a lot of people don't, because I like how they smell. I mean, you can find bad ones, but they also give you really nice presentation. This is the Insurrection 2. Compared to just a crappy paper box, and this is all the Al Haramain boxes. They're really nice boxes. And then you have inspired by. So you have things like Mont Blanc Explorer. So Aventus is one of the most popular clones out there and one of the most expensive. So a lot of companies try to clone it, like Armaf came out with Club de Nuit. That is the clone from Armaf of Aventus. Then Mont Blanc came out with Mont Blanc Explorer, which they took certain aspects of Aventus, like especially their opening, and they did it better. They did it like the 2011 version batch of Aventus, and they made a really great Aventus-y opening, but then it goes and does its own thing. So it is not an Aventus clone, but it's an inspired by fragrance. So that's the difference between clones and inspired by. Number 4 on my list is talking about, when I say performance, I am talking about how does this fragrance react with your skin? How long does it last? How does it project? And so it's projection, longevity, and sillage. The projection is if you created a circle around you and you said, this is how far out when I spray the cologne on me, it projects in this circle to where people, when they walk into this circle, can smell me. So that's the projection. And how far does it go out? 3, 4, 5, 6 feet. And how long does it last? 2, 3, 4 hours. Then the sillage is the same thing, but instead of a circle, it's in a trail behind you. So if you're walking down the street, how far back does that sillage go to where somebody can smell you? 10 feet behind you, 6 feet behind you, and how long does that last? 3, 4 hours. Then you have your longevity, which is how long does the fragrance last on your skin or on your clothes. That is the longevity of a fragrance. Usually the higher the concentration, the higher the longevity. So then next we have types of fragrances, which are like blue fragrances, gourmand fragrances. Blue fragrance is pretty much anything that is for warmer months. They are the ones that are aimed for warmer months, like Bleu de Chanel or YSL Eau de Parfum. They are usually the aquatic, the marine type fragrances, the aromatics, the ones with the C notes, zonic notes. Typically they're the ones with the lightweight notes in them, and they're again aimed more at summer, and most of the time you'll find them in a blue bottle with blue liquid. Then you have gourmand fragrances, which are on the opposite end of the spectrum. Most of the time they're for the colder months. Most of the time they're with the heavier notes, the vanillas, the tonka beans, the vetivers, the woods. Those are the heavier, and gourmand is something that's just like it sounds. It's something that smells like you would want to eat it. So that's the gourmand fragrance, and again, most of the time are based on around the winter, but in certain cases like these, Valentino Yellow Dream and Azzaro Most Wanted, they have a freshness to them that you can wear them all year round. Then there's like this Emporio Armani Strong With You Intensely, that is like a chestnut, very wintry fragrance. So as far as when I say notes, There's a note breakdown, which there's top notes, mid notes, or heart notes, and bass notes. The top notes are exactly what they sound like when you spray a cologne or fragrance on and you smell it right off the bat. That is the opening or the top notes. They are usually the lightest notes and the ones that dissipate the quickest. Those would be your bergamots, your lemons, your limes, pretty much anything that's lightweight. Usually the ones in the mid are your, just like they say, they're the ones that last the second amount. They don't last too short, or they don't dissipate too quickly or dissipate forever. They're not too heavy. And again, those are your mid or your heart notes. And when I say dry down, the dry down is whenever it dries down on your skin, it will slightly change, or sometimes they drastically change into a different fragrance, and these bass and mid notes come up, and that's what you get for the rest of the fragrance, which is your dry down. So the mid notes are the semi-light but not too heavy. Then you have your bass notes, again, which are your heaviest notes, which are the ones that really stay on your skin the longest. Again, tonka bean woods, vetiver, and you understand. And then we have to go with niche or designer. So designer is from just a designer, somebody who designs clothing, shoes, fragrances, whatever it might be. Mass appealing stuff. Then there's niche. There are two schools of thought when it comes to the way that niche is constructed. I believe in the school of thought that niche is created by anybody by a designer that does not sell anything but colognes or fragrances. That to me is what a niche is, like Guerlain Paris. I don't consider like Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille, which is in his private collection, to be a niche fragrance. I just don't. Then there's people who consider niche like the really expensive, the ones that use like really fresh. Like if you are buying something called grass, it's gonna smell like grass. If you're buying something that smells like, that's called Tobacco Vanille, it's gonna be tobacco and vanilla. Pretty much the really expensive high-end fragrances from somebody who is known as a niche designer. That's what they call a niche fragrance, and they would not consider like a Guerlain Paris a niche fragrance because it's too inexpensive. Designers are usually mass appealing, and niche are usually the ones that are harder to get your nose on. They're usually a lot harder to the nose, and I like designers better than I like niche. The only niche that I actually feel like are just over expensive designer fragrances. And they're so mass appealing, like Creed Aventus, it's just like, it used to be $200, now it's $500, and it's just like, what's the point? It's just a overhyped, mass appealing fragrance that you can get Mont Blanc Explorer for, which I feel is better for $40. But anyway, so that is for the most part what I have as far as the information. If you have any other questions about any other fragrance terminology, please feel free to let me know. Like and subscribe if you like this comment. I will be back. I have 3 new release bottles on their way. They are arriving today, so I will have them up by tomorrow. But thanks for tuning in, and you guys have a great day.